Hello everyone, how's it all going? How you doing? I hope you're all doing well. Welcome to another episode of Chatterbox. I'm here live with you guys. Apologies for the slight technical difficulties, and apologies, I'm slightly late today, but I have been doing a couple of things, etc. But if you could kindly, before I start, subscribe and smash a like on the video. Today, I'm joined by a very, very special guest. He's a Manchester legend. He's been around the block. He's a brilliant radio host. He's a presenter. But above all, he's a Manchester United legend. He's a Manchester United legend. Let me just get this all sorted out before I carry on. Yeah, let me just get this before I get everyone on. Thank you so much for being patient with me, guys. I know I've been a while, but thank you so much. Invite to the stage. Yeah, I'm just waiting on my guest Terry to come through.
Yeah, I should be there.
Are you there, mate?
Yeah, I should be here, but I can't get my cameras to work. For whatever reason.
That's right. Let's put you on anyway.
All right.
Nothing's happening. Let's get you on anyway, mate. Sorry about that. Yes, mate. What's going on?
I don't understand why the camera's not coming on.
I thought you looked a bit different. What was going on here? Like,
let me see. You should have got settings. Have a look. Oh, hang on, wait. Here you go.
That's all right. You can take your time, mate. I'm just gonna
just use that. There you go.
There you go. One. All in his beauty.
There's
live.
Is that John Lennon, Stevie Wonder, Otis Redding? Pictures there.
No, it's better than that, mate. It's better than that. Thank you so much for joining me today, mate. I really appreciate you joining me. I had a bit of technical difficulties myself. I opened the wrong stream, unfortunately, and ended up talking to nobody.
I'm just 64, so struggle with everything. It's like
Is that it?
It's basically the old days when your telly was wrong and you just give it a bang. You know,
that's it.
That's
it usually works.
Got a nice mic.
Power it down, just power it down, isn't it? Let me just set this up now. I've done a really silly thing. I went onto the wrong stream and basically was speaking to nobody. I'm thinking, how comes there's nobody here? What's going on?
I'd nipped out.
Oh my goodness me! And I ended up. Then I only noticed afterwards, in regards to it. Let me just press that. Sorry about that. Yeah, I only noticed afterwards, and I thought, oh my goodness me, how? It's never happened to me. Trust me, it's never happened to me before. You know, so I'm here anyway. We're here, better late than never. We're here live. I'm here with the great Terry Christian. What's going on, mate? What have you been up to?
Oh, well, I don't drink anymore. And I went out last night with some mates of mine, drinking on an empty stomach. You know, when you go out for two, and then once you've had two, everything seems like a good idea. And it's not a good thing to do. You know, I mean, that's the first time I've had a drink since, I think,
1999.
No, since the first England match.
Oh, what, in the Euros?
In the Euros. That was last time.
That's going to set you to drink, isn't it? Definitely.
Well, it was just boredom, you know.
Oh, goodness me. It was, I mean, I was doing watch-alongs for the England games. I just had enough. Up to the semi-final, I thought, I can't do this. Can't do this anymore.
I mean, it's Southgate, isn't it? I mean, God bless him. He's done well with the team. You know, he's got them all liking each other and wanting to play. But it's very similar to Mourinho at United. You know,
it is. At least Mourinho won trophies, though. That's the thing, isn't it? You know, Southgate he's never won anything.
I never think of Mourinho's trophies at United. He's down as the worst manager we've ever had in my mind. And I've been to games at Old Trafford. 68, 69.
Really? What, the worst manager, you think?
Yeah, ever. Because he didn't suit us at all. He was very negative. He'd accept losing 2-1 rather than going for it and risking getting beat 4-1 or 5-1. And even those games where we won 4-0, you know, early doors with him, it was the same, wasn't it? It was the same pattern. We score one, sit back, score another, sit back, score another, sit back. And you're going, I've just watched us win 4-0, and it feels like we've scraped a 1-0 win away at Stoke on a Wednesday night. It had that kind of vibe about it, you know.
I think one thing that stuck out in my head. I mean, I was sitting in the south stand once next to the bench, I remember. I think it was Lukaku who missed a chance, and he would turn around to the bench and go, "See what I mean?" And I'm thinking, My goodness, you're meant to be Man United manager. You're meant to be, edging these players on, giving them a bit of influence, inspiring them somewhat. But it just wasn't. I just don't think it was a match. I think we should have got him after Sir Alex Ferguson. If we were going to get him, I think that's.
I don't think we should have got him at all. It's just a wrong fit. It was just. I mean, basically, it was Tony Pulis with an unlimited budget, wasn't he? He took over a side that had under Ranieri, a Chelsea side that had played really well, finished second in the league, and then he spent an absolute fortune buying loads of players to make them play much worse football. And although he won the league, it was like, he had Damien Duff, he had Arjen Robben, he had, and he never played them both together, did he? It was always just one.
It was always this way. Too cautious, isn't it?
He could have ripped teams apart and played great football with that side, and he just didn't bother.
And that's the issue with him. I think when I look back on Man United and Jose Mourinho, I think his career is based on a lot of luck. I mean, obviously, look at the Porto game.
VAR, Porto were out, aren't they?
They're out 2-0. It's game over.
And then I'd kind of disliked them because I actually watched that UEFA Cup final, between them and Celtic.
Oh, yes, the UEFA, yeah.
Yeah. So Europa,
yeah. Back in the day.
And that was Martin O'Neill's Celtic, and Celtic absolutely hammered them. And they were diving and they were time wasting and cheating all the way through Porto. I mean, they had good players, but it was kind of, it was one of them. It was spiteful football to watch because I was watching it kind of fairly neutral, you know what I mean? And then by the end of it, I just hated Porto.
It's a bit like England, isn't it? Somewhat. Yeah, it is a little bit like England. You end up wanting England to lose just because they're hands in football. I mean, at the end of the day,
say that.
And attack won at the end of the day. And attack will always win. If you're playing positive football rather than negative football, going out there to preserve rather than just going out there and trying to win.
I mean, if you're paying money to go and watch a game, you want to actually see something. Do you know what I mean? You want to see something worth watching. It's an awful feeling as being a freezing cold stadium when there's nothing happening on the pitch. Like Van Gaal had it. You think, God, we've had one shot on target in the whole first half. How much worse can it get?
Van Gaal was too structured. It was just like, all right, we've got the defense, and it was like pass that way, pass back. It's like robotic football, as I was saying earlier about, just need to be free flowing. I posted a video when we got Man United against Chelsea in 1995, and I looked at the way we passed the ball. We were, free flowing. Cantona, number 6, ended up being. You had Scholes on the left. It was just everything interchanging, and I just don't think we have that anymore. I think it's too robotic.
It's every team has systems now, so, but it is a thingy. Yeah, who played the most boring football? Moyes, LVG, or Josie? Someone's just popped up there. I still think Jose, because the size of the squad he had no excuse. I don't think Moyes didn't have a massive squad. He didn't get his new signings in. He'd lost Scholes, hadn't he? We didn't have any back four. He wasn't able to play Van Persie and Rooney together, because Van Persie was out for a lot of the season and Rooney missed a big chunk of the season as well. So if he could have played those two together, that would have been an extra 15 or 20 goals that season. That would have got United top 4. And everyone forgets how...
He also wanted Bale, didn't he? Something like that. He said he almost signed Gareth Bale in that season. Was it David Moyes you're speaking about?
Yeah, David Moyes.
Yeah, he was saying... He could have signed Gareth Bale. We're very close to signing him. Yeah, what would you have thought of that transfer? That would have changed a lot of things, of course, at Bale at that time.
Of course it would, because we'd lost a lot of players. Kind of Giggs was virtually finished by then. Scholes had retired. And he was always a big miss anyway. Scholes, without Scholes, we were never quite the same team. But it was just interesting. I was looking even back at United, that 2010-2011 season, where you thought we weren't the best squad that we'd had, and yet remember us beating Arsenal 8-2, and the options that because people talk now about United, and you go, we just need a much bigger and better squad. We had wingers, we had Valencia, we had Giggs, we had Nani, we had Ashley Young, we had Ji-Sung Park, and then up front you had Rooney, you still had Berbatov, you had
you still had Rio Ferdinand, didn't we, for a period as well? Nemanja Vidic.
Yeah, you had Chicharito, you had Michael Owen, Still, do you know what I mean? So we had like loads of options everywhere. Centre half, we had Johnny Evans, Chris Smalling, Phil Jones. Sorry, Phil Jones.
Goodness
Phil Jones,
me.
it doesn't look as bad when you go back in time. It was just one big mistake in each half, wasn't it? He had that in his locker.
Yeah, it
One
was
big
just
mistake a half.
it wasn't that bad. It wasn't. Absolutely not. I remember when he used to bomb forward into the box from his own area and you know, get a cross in and assist a goal. He was, I mean, Sir Alex Ferguson wouldn't say, what did he say? He was the next Duncan Edwards.
Yes, I don't know about that.
That's what I mean. You never know under Ferguson what would happen with him. I mean, he could have improved, but he was just
again, all those players did a job. I mean, I just thought we ended up throwing a lot of the baby out with the bathwater. You know, you let Smalling go, who was an out-and-out defender. So when you wanted to play though, that's, you know, that kind of deep game defending and trying to hold on to leads. That's when you need a Smalling there. You know, he wasn't going to bring in the ball out, but that's why him and Dally Blint did well together, because Dally Blint was like you basically almost like a deep, you know, a centre defender stroke midfielder, so he could do the distribution. And it's like everyone was, you know, it's some ridiculous, you know, kind of transfers, weren't they? With Van Harley threw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, why didn't we keep Chicharito? Why did he was happy at United? You know, Nani. You know, Memphis Depay, was he an improvement on Nani? Not really. He wasn't.
No, not at all.
And it's
he's highly underrated. He's highly underrated.
And then, of course, he never really got a proper chance, did he, Memphis Depay? Because as soon as Mourinho came in, he got rid of him for next to nothing and then went and bought Mkhitaryan. And you're going, well, is that an improvement on him? So it's some really odd stuff. And again, you know, getting rid of Johnny Evans and, you know, Darren Fletcher. And, you know, it's sort of strange. Just a really strange time what's gone on. So United now need to get back to having that big squad. And that's hopefully what Ten Hag will do, because, you know, we were decimated by injuries last year. My worry is that Ineos won't actually sign these. They've got no money, have they? So, you know, and when people start and doing housekeeping for United, I go, there's no excuse for us to be doing housekeeping. We make a fortune. It's just that the Glazers have nicked it all. You know what I mean?
They've nicked it all, and also they put players on astronomical wages, so they won't leave. And they're like, why should I leave? I'm on such and such amount of money. Why should I go to Fulham?
I mean, what I suspect with the players is, let's say you come from Fulham and go to United, suddenly your social media is worth a fortune. And I think United are taking the social media off them, so they have to compensate them with money for that. So I think that's one of the big reasons. So the minute, you know, so there'll be all sorts of stuff, you know, tied up with it, you know, in it commercially. It won't just be the big, and also to get players to come, if you're not going to win the league, and United, you know, the plan, the Glazer plan has been very unambitious. You know what I mean? It's been to just sort of get in that top four and qualify for Europe every year. And so they'll pay big money for a player, because once that player's on the books, he's an asset worth as much as they paid for him. You know what I mean? Even if he's not. That's why they were hanging on to people like, you know, Juan Mata for years, because he never played him in his right position anyway. But on paper, he was worth 37 million. Whereas if they'd have sold him, we'd have only got 10 million. You know, we're keeping hold of Jesse Lingard, because on paper, he was worth 30 million. If we'd have sold him, maybe we'd have got 20. You know what I mean? So it's, you know, same with Pogba, you know, on paper, he's worth, you know, 90 million. But if we'd have sold him, we might have only got 40 or 50, because he was so injury prone.
People don't understand, like I was speaking earlier in the stream about the damage that the Glazers have done over the last 20 years. And it's not just because they were looking at Ineos saying that Ineos have the money, they got 150 million, about they should be spending that money. But people don't understand. We still owe money from transfers from the past.
Oh, yeah. 300 million, isn't it?
Yeah, we owe money for Sancho, for goodness sake. You know, we still owe money, and 1 billion in debt, of course, FFP on top of us. It's really difficult to do any deals, especially if players don't want to leave, and this is hampering us somewhat for next season. Obviously, it's Ugarte that we want. He's not through the door yet. De Ligt is another one. He's not through the door yet. I just feel like it's going to take time for us.
But you see, everyone knows that we need to sell to buy, so that's why people like Fulham are only offering 17 million for Scott McTominay, when really we should get 25 for him.
At least.
You know,
at least you get players like Van der Beek. You get players in the National League who are worth more than 800,000.
I mean, yeah, Van der Beek's a weird one. Can he have become such a bad player?
No, he's not a bad player. I've seen him run midfields against Real Madrid. I've seen, I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, maybe his confidence got crashed. He wasn't needed. You wonder if that might happen with Mason Mount yet. Because
exactly.
you kind of think, did we really need him when we bought him? I mean, obviously he's a good player, but where his best position is where Bruno plays. And Bruno, fingers crossed, is never injured, is he really?
And that's exactly the point. In regards to Bruno, we need a cover for him. I think he runs himself to the ground. I love Bruno, to be honest. Of course, it gets frustrating sometimes, and when you're watching Man United, you get frustrated with a certain player or something. But no one can doubt Bruno, his effort, his work level.
I actually think he's been a lot less wasteful with the ball this last season. Certainly after Christmas, so he's really stepped up. Because he used to disappear in games against the big teams, didn't he? And he stopped doing that. He started, making an impact. Whereas one time a bit like Phil Foden. I actually said that to my lad. I said, Foden, if teams play tough against him, he kind of disappears for huge portions of the game. And, which is what happened against United in the FA Cup final.
Is he a system player, do you think? Do you think he can only fit a certain system?
No, I think he's good. I just think some players don't like the close attention, do they?
Mm.
And then they start struggling a bit or trying too hard, So it's a difficult one, but sometimes it's like, he's surrounded by so many great players. I mean, exactly. I even remember like Cantona was brilliant, but he didn't look as good when Mark Hughes went, did he?
He didn't know, and that's probably why he left in the end, 1997.
Well, I think Mark Hughes did a hell of a lot of work. That United team, in some ways, was built around Mark Hughes and his strengths, and I mean, just how good he was at Chelsea. And all the Chelsea fans spotted that about him, didn't they? They thought, God,
there's one thing that stuck out in my head about Mark Hughes. He had an interview in regards to that Cantona karate kick. And he said, "I could see when Cantona's eyes were going black that he was gonna do so." Maybe Mark Hughes was more than just a good player to play alongside. Maybe he nurtured a bit like Cantona, like looked after Cantona a little bit, because Cantona was obviously in his career he was a loose cannon, of course, but. Maybe he needed Mark Hughes there in case he would have kicked another.
But the thing is that I remember that game, the Crystal Palace game. It was like Shaw and Southgate were just taking it turns each, weren't they, to kind of kick Cantona?
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
And that was out of order. Yeah,
I mean, and that's what obviously got him wound up.
It's unbelievable, and it's not the first time we've been at Selhurst Park, and the same thing has happened with Wimbledon with Vinnie Jones, and then obviously Crystal Palace. In regards to Ten Hag. You were on the fence in regards to Ten Hag last season, weren't you?
I mean, what it was that I think I was a bit frustrated with, kind of just not seeing an improvement. But I was glad that we kept him. But I did think that he was going. I thought, he seemed like a dead man walking, didn't he, for a lot of the season?
Yeah, he did. The FA Cup.
Yeah, I mean, you knew the injuries. Even when Luke Shaw just came back for that little window, when we beat Chelsea, we beat Aston Villa, and you could see him just standing on the halfway line, in that sort of left wing back position, and it just made such a difference to us. And suddenly we just looked a much better side. Even Rashford started playing a bit better then, didn't he? And it was kind of,
it was like. Balance is everything, in my opinion. You need balance in your team. Obviously, when Nietzsche came back, of course, I know we still had Wan-Bissaka as a left back. I think he was playing left back. It's still the balance. Once you get the balance back.
Yeah, similar problem with England, wasn't it? You don't get, people like Rashford needed to come in a bit more centrally, as did Garnacho, with the overlapping fullbacks. And, if they do that, then they link up better with Højlund, because I still think Højlund's going to be fantastic.
I still do as well. I do as well. I think he's got the. You can see something about him. There's something about him I like, and he's not there yet. He needs a player next to him. He needs a goal scorer next to him. I think. Obviously, when people talk a lot about the class of '92, when they came into the side, obviously they're Gary Pallister, Steve Bruce, Eric Cantona, Ryan Giggs, Peter Schmeichel, they had in the team to nurture them. Some of these young players don't have any winners around them. This is the problem, I think, at the moment. Where do you expect United to finish next season? Of course, we've got a lot of young players coming through.
I think again, realistically, probably third or fourth, at best. But I've got a feeling that some more will start stepping up. I mean, Mainu can only get better, so let's fingers crossed he doesn't get pick up a bad injury. Mason Mount, let's hope he stays injury free, shows a bit of what he can do. I mean, we've still got Casemiro. I hope we keep him. I know it sounds daft, but we need a squad. We need to have good players that we can rotate around. It'd be great if we can get Agati, is that his name?
Yeah,
the Uruguayan. He looks good, but I don't know. It's kind of I just want to see the squad getting bigger and better. Kind of and adventurous. And Rashford is not going to have a bad season again like the one he's had. It was because you saw glimpses of it. He had a great game in the FA Cup final. And I think if Luke Shaw's a proper left back, then we'll start getting more out of Rashford. But I just think overall competition for places. So you've got Amad Diallo. I'm really excited about him. You've still got Garnacho. I like Pellistri. I don't know what's happening with him. Is he being sold? Or is
I think he's going to Panathinaikos. I think he's going to be going there. He hasn't had much of a chance, has he?
Yeah, but I like him, So, Jadon Sancho, will he stay or is he definitely going? I don't know. You see, I'm one of those. I just want us to keep. If we can't get decent money, I want us to keep the players. And I think.
What about McTominay?
I mean, he's a weird one, isn't he, McTominay? Because he's a good squad player. He's not really the kind of midfielder we need, is he? I mean, he's probably best as a number 10. He was like a striker, a number 10 when he was in the youth team, and I just think it was like Mourinho, like shoving him in there in the midfield because he's just like big players, big physical players. Again, I think he had one of his best seasons for us last season, but there've been still games where you just wish someone would make the decision a bit quicker or his touch was better, So if we can get somebody better than him, that's great. Maybe that's what, Xerxes will be. Maybe that's what, I don't know, if we bring in another player, we might have someone better. But if we can't get 25 million for him or 20, then keep him.
I agree, because you can't be giving them away for peanuts. I mean, I know we need the money. You can't. It's worth much more than that.
We sold Johnny Evans for 3 million to West Brom. 3 million quid.
If Johnny Evans was Italian, Spanish, French, my goodness me, he'd be worth 50 million. That guy.
Even Leicester fans, my youngest lad, his best mate when he was at Sheffield Uni was a big Leicester City fan, Leicester City season ticket holder. And he said, we all prefer Johnny Evans to Harry Maguire anyway. As Leicester fans, they always did. That's who they rated.
John Smalling. Why did we get rid of Smalling? He
wasn't good at bringing the ball out, but he was really fast, and he was a great tackler. And we only got 10 million for him.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. Terry, I wanted to go. Obviously, you've done a lot in your career. I was raised on you, obviously, with the word, of course, years ago. Fantasy football. I've seen you on that from many decades.
I inherited Paula Yates's team on fantasy football. No one wanted to talk about football when I went on.
I liked the program, but I thought it wouldn't survive these days, would it? To be honest with you, that sort of football banter that was on there. I mean, when you went on there a couple of times, I think you went on there, they were a bit hard on you, I think.
Well, I mean, and you always had that same thing. I mean, I was never a big fan of David Baddiel anyway. He got away with, because he's one of those people who always seemed as if he was on the brink of about to say something funny and never quite managed it. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
Never, and then what he did say, they always make the big thing about, because I grew up in Old Trafford, and they go, "Oh, a Manchester United fan is actually from Manchester," and you go, "Well." They did, was it Loughborough University? Someone did a massive survey in around 1996, and it was of every football team in the Premier League, and which ones had the highest proportion of season ticket holders that lived within a 4-mile radius of the ground. And Man United had the highest number. The team with the lowest number were Liverpool. And then City fans go, "What about us?" I said, "You were in the Premier League at the time."
Oh, God, City. My
You're in
goodness.
Division 2.
They're in Division. Look, I'm originally from Leighton, right, in East London. I'm on stone's throw from Brisbane Road, Leighton Orient. And they come. They think they don't. I mean, they're not quite on this earth at the moment. Like what's going on, what reality is. I mean, Leighton Orient could have been taken over by the Sheikhs and ended up champions of England. Do you know what I mean? And this is the whole thing.
Do you know what's funny about that? The last time Leighton Orient were in the top division, i.e. Division 1, was 62-63 season. And they were relegated. They were relegated with Man City.
It's telling you something. There you go. They might be relegated.
United only finished about three above that, but we won the FA Cup. So
yeah.
we're okay.
We won the Champions League a few years later, though.
Yeah.
We won the European Cup. So, you know. In regards to I mean, you've supported United how long now? 50 years?
Oh yeah, well, longer. You know, so I mean, I went you got taken to the reserve games first because obviously, you know, it was packed in those days. It was all standing, so it wasn't much fun when you were little. So we went to like reserve games. Then when you know, once you got to like 8, 7, 8, then you went to the, you know what I mean, the proper games. But it was like it wasn't much fun. We used to like going to City in them days because there was more room there. No, I'm not.
Main Road, the old. That wasn't that big either.
It held 52,000, but they only ever sold it out when they played United, which is weird. Even when they were like top of the table with Liverpool in 76, 77 season, the big top of the table battle at Main Road, City versus Liverpool, was a 1-1 draw. There was still only 49,000 there. So it's 3,000 short of a sellout. Whereas like when they played United, you know, they all turn up then. Although in those days, loads of United fans would go. You'd find ways of getting in. You know, it wasn't like
back in those days. Who's the greatest player you've seen live in your?
Well, I mean, probably George Best. You know, because you've got to remember how bad the pitches were, and I suppose the most similar player to him would be Messi. You know, but Best could do things, and he looked more elegant than Messi. He had a kind of, you know, he could do things with the ball that you could hardly imagine, and he saw things so quickly. He was just such a natural, you know, 2-footed, the lot. I mean, he was an amazing player, Best.
And only a bit of a small part of his career was captured on camera as well. Not everyone saw.
Yeah. I mean, he was week in, week out. You know, I remember seeing him against Sheffield United, and he's like, we were losing 1-0. Like, you know, he went and just inspired the whole game. I mean, he's the reason why we didn't get relegated for years. It was almost like a one-man team. Best, you know, he was that special. And it is sad that a better team wasn't built around him, you know, later on, you know, because a lot of those players were aging.
They were, and it ended up in a relegation, didn't it, in the end? And 974.
Yeah, well, that's that. Well, that's because he skipped off, didn't he, halfway through the season or whatever, just before Christmas, and never came back again. And that was it. Yeah. We got relegated. Everything was sad that season. Everything was sad about that season. You know,
it was. I mean, this is why. I mean, I was born in 81, so I don't quite. Obviously, I didn't watch it. So, but at the end of the day, people need to look at this. Where we are today. Okay, people need to.
Interestingly enough, when United got relegated, we shipped less goals against than we did in the Premier League last
season.
Yeah, we in fact, the only teams that had conceded less goals than United when we got relegated were the top 3: Derby County, Leeds, and Liverpool. And even Ipswich Town, who finished 4th, conceded more goals than United. It's just that we didn't have a striker. We got relegated because we didn't have a striker. Our back 4 were fantastic, and most of the games we lost were like 1-0, you know, 2-1.
Yeah, we didn't have a striker at that time, but I believe it made us what we are. To be honest, everything that our adversities made us into what we were. We ended up being, of course, and obviously until Sir Alex Ferguson took charge in 1986. What's your greatest memory as a United fan, and your worst memory? I put it as a one question.
I mean, greatest memory was really seeing us win the FA Cup in '77 against Liverpool. Obviously, the treble. But I never got to go to Barcelona. I had a ticket and couldn't get any kind of way of getting transport there. And my youngest lad was only just 1. So it was like awkward, do you know what I mean? Because we didn't have any sort of people around who could, like look after him and all the rest of it. So it was one of them. And, I couldn't get a flight. I couldn't get anything. I would have ended up going on the bus or something like that. And I thought I couldn't face it. And
there's many went on the bus. I know people went to Moscow.
I also thought we were going to lose. No Scholes, no Keane.
No Scholes, no Keane, yeah. I mean, when we went 1-0 down, it was like, we had that little bit of hope in it because of that season, what was happening over and over again. We kept scoring late goals. We kept scoring in the last minute. And you still believed, But during that game, I didn't think. So I thought we were like, I was at the stadium, lucky enough, slept on the beach, didn't get a hotel. But it was
that whole
fantastic
season was magical. Because of so many games we went a goal down in and we had to storm back, all those, beating Chelsea in the FA Cup, it was a replay, wasn't it? When we had to go and beat them at their ground and they were really good, being drawn against Arsenal, Liverpool in the, the third round at Old Trafford, where, we were losing 1-0 right through the game and then 2 goals right near the end. It was Dwight Yorke and Solskjaer. I mean, what was funny, they were this family sat in front of me, where my season ticket was in the South Stand, and it was like a Lebanese guy and his kids, obviously from Manchester, but they'd always arrive 5 minutes after kickoff, and they'd always leave 5 minutes before the full-time whistle. And that game against Liverpool, they didn't see a single goal.
Goodness me. 1999 though, mate. It was just another. Even the goals against Charlton in the last minute, things that just worked in our favour. It was just loads of goals that we scored in the last minute. As you said, the replay against Chelsea, we won the replay 2-0, wasn't it?
I couldn't believe that. I think the player of the year was David Ginola, which is crazy when you think about it. I mean, you could have picked any United player. I would have, for me, it was Dwight Yorke, I thought was our best player.
That season, yeah, because, second, closely followed by Bex. I mean, second, I thought Bex came back after the 1998 World Cup and he was brilliant. He handled the abuse brilliantly. Some of the abuse I used to hear, I went to a couple of games that year. He was horrid against his wife, against his kids and whatever there was. I mean, it was disgusting.
Well, yeah, I mean, he stepped up, but I mean, there were just so many great players in that year for United. But I just felt the one that I worried most about if he wasn't in the starting lineup was Dwight Yorke, because I just thought something about us dropped off a little bit without it. Yeah. I thought he was really inspiring, in that kind of almost like number 10 type role.
He was an inspiring and amazing signing. I wasn't really happy about the signing at the time as well. I thought Dwight Yorke,
I'd seen him play for Villa against, was it Atletico Madrid or Real Madrid?
I think they played Atletico in the UEFA Cup.
That's right. And I just thought he was amazing in that.
It was good against us in 1995-96 when you can't win anything with kids team.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you know what I mean? The way he could hold the ball up, his vision, his kind of, his skill, where he could take a man on, on one-on-one. I just thought he was fantastic.
He was a fantastic. What's your worst memory as a United fan in regards to this last 60 years? Goodness me, probably a few.
I mean, obviously, what I found upsetting was us not getting to the FA Cup final or a final in 1970, because we were in the League Cup semi-final against City and got beat by them over 2 legs. And then we had 3 replays against Leeds United, who were, the top team at the time in 69-70 season. And then I think the final one, we lost at Burnden Park, Bolton. That's a weird place to play a replay. But it was like, I mean, again, there was a perfectly good George Best goal that was disallowed, and they just kicked lumps out of us. And the pitches were terrible. I mean that's the heartbreaking thing, I think, when you look back at the United side that Doherty had. We could have won everything in 75-76 season, but the players were so small and the pitches were bad. So once the pitches got bad from November to our kind of, we were then drawing games that we should have won. And we weren't able to get up to speed, and you got physically bullied because all our players were like, 9 stone ringing wet, like Gordon Hill, Jerry Daly, fantastic player, Jerry Daly. But he was just, I think he smoked about 40 a day. He looked like he hadn't eaten for about a week, and he just looked too thin and weak. But he could do the lot. Best penalty taker I've ever seen at United. He missed his first one, and after that, he had a way of just side footing the ball and always sent the keeper the wrong way. He never.
I think there's a technique to that. I think Bruno's mastered it.
Amazing. Oh, he was amazing, Jerry Daly. He just like 2 steps back, step forward, just slot it in with the side of his foot, and the keeper always went the wrong way. There's none of that Ivan Toney, going. I was waiting for us to end up in a penalty shootout with Spain and for him to like miss. And then
I don't think we would have beaten them. I seriously don't think we would have beaten them in penalties. I think Spain are too technically gifted. They're gonna end up beating England. They'll score, we'll score, they'll score, we'll score. A bit like Germany in '96 when they just kept scoring and we missed one and that was it.
Well, we missed our opportunity, didn't we, against Italy? Because really it should have been Spain in that final. How they didn't beat Italy in the semi-final, I've no idea.
I mean, I'm in Italy at the moment, so I speak to a lot of people about that game. And they said they can't believe they won the game. They don't know how they won the game.
We just sat back.
We sat back. We scored. We had 1 shot on target. And that was it. Yeah. The whole game.
We never tried to give them anything to think about. You know what I mean? He didn't bring on positive substitutions. He didn't try and, upset them or, put them under any kind of pressure. We just sat back, and sort of just defended. And it was like, God, I couldn't pass it 5 yards.
Exactly. I mean, you've interviewed a few people. If I bring it on to your career, exactly like the Word was a big program back in the 90s, back in the Friday nights, and I saw a lot of your interviews. You've interviewed the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lisa Stansfield and people like that, of that ilk. Is there anyone alive or dead who you would like to interview, who you would like to meet?
Well, I mean, I've been lucky, but it's kind of, nothing's going to be a bigger thrill to me than, interviewing James Brown. I even had like a private concert off him on a piano at this doctor's house, and it was when he was in prison in Aiken, South Carolina. We had Whitney Houston on our first late night show, because for the first 11 weeks of the Word, we were on at 6 p.m. on a Friday. And then they thought, this is probably more suited to a later slot, 11 p.m. And we had Whitney Houston on. We had Sinead O'Connor on, Hailey Berry. Then over in the USA, I did Patrick Swayze, Whoopi Goldberg for the Ghost thing. Likewise, when we did Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sharon Stone, that was for Total Recall. Remember the science fiction movie?
Wow, that's taking it back, isn't it?
Yeah, it was
89, 90?
1990. So that's when we started. And that was one of the first interviews we did. That was in the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills, where we did that. So we kind of, we would get people. We were the first show to think, right, well, no one flew first class or anything like that, which you had a lot of that going on in the media at the time. We were there, bucket seats out there, doing the junkets just to get the name. So it looked like most of the money, most of the budget of the Word was spent on screen. You know what I mean? So because we had quite a low budget, really, but we made it look like we had a lot of money. Because
is there anyone you met that you were disappointed with that you liked?
Not really. I mean, I remember doing Eddie Murphy, and he was fantastic in the interview, but before the interview, he was a very kind of wouldn't shake my hand, sort of turned his back, and then didn't engage with me at all. During the interview, fantastic. And then after the interview, I thought, he's warmed up now. I went, listen, thanks for that, Eddie. He went like that, and he sort of turned his back up like that. I thought, okay. I don't know what that is about. Sometimes with the Hollywood stars, they have to set out boundaries, don't they? So the more boundaries they set out, the less you're likely to take the mickey out of them. And I think that's maybe something that he'd learned the hard way. And especially with maybe, British interviews, because sometimes, it's like, there was always a certain snariness, wasn't there? Especially about those sort of public school types. And so that would then carry into our media. Just, oh my God, and you go, interviewing someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, well, do you really think any of your films are actually any good? That kind of thing. And you go, well, it's entertainment. People want to go and see what they want to go and see. That's
cringe, isn't it? I mean, I used to remember the old English, the British interviewers were the worst back in them days, especially. It's like fantasy football. Exactly like that type of thing, but in another scale of things, of course. In regards to footballers, which footballers have you met, and which would have you liked to meet?
All. I've met George Best. I remember, speaking to him at some length. The weirdest one was when we lost the FA Cup final in '95. Oh, what have I done there? The FA Cup final in 1995, and I was staying in the Metropole Hotel because I was working in London as well, and all the players were there, and I was like surprised coming back from the match, and then I went down to the bar to meet a mate of mine, and it was just full of all the United side, so Gary Pallister, Paul Ince, Mark Hughes, so everyone was there, chatting away, except for Roy Keane. He was there with his missus, but he wasn't talking to anyone. And it was like, so chatting to all of them at the bar. And I never used to like to do that. I didn't like knowing United players or chatting to them while they were still playing for United. Because I wanted to keep it sacred, just in case I didn't like them.
They say don't meet your heroes, isn't it?
I suppose I had to keep something sort of special for me, but that was brilliant. Just to be chatting to them, even though we'd lost 1-0, so it was a bit crap like that, and ended up being, that was a season where if it wasn't for what happened to Cantona and a little bit more luck, we would have won the double. But
we should have won the double. Paul Rideout.
We lost the league by 1 point, and had it been the old system of 2 points for a win and 1 for a draw, we'd have actually won the league that year.
We would have won the league as well.
Yeah, yes. If it had been the old system of 2 points for a win and 1 for a draw.
But do you know what? I think all our adversity.
Tell them a nerd. Tell them a nerd.
I think it's important though that we lost the league. I think it's a bit like when we lost the league to Arsenal in '98. We went on to win the treble. When we lost the league in '95, we went on to win the double with kids. Maybe Sir Alex wouldn't have brought through those players if we didn't lose the league that season. Who knows? Maybe if Andy Cole took one of those chances. The butterfly effect. What would have happened?
It was a strange one, wasn't it, with Ince? Because you thought, why is he sitting? And then Hughes as well, and Kanchelskis. You thought that was like three really great players. But I knew he had his eye on Nicky Butt. Nicky Butt was kind of ready, wasn't it, to step up? I think he wanted to, make that room for him. But yeah, the rest of it was weird because what did we do? We bought Karol Poborski, didn't we, to replace Kanchelskis. It wasn't
a one goal probably.
It wasn't quite there. Yeah, that was a great goal. I won it against Portugal that he scored. But
yeah, it was. I was a bit worried that season because obviously some of those players. I went to the York City game. We lost 3-0 at Old Trafford, and I was a bit worried about some of those players coming in. And especially when we lost the first game 3-1, I was like, this is going to be a rocky ride. It's going to be a bad one this season. So. It's a bit mad, like when you think back and what happened and how things could have changed in regards to our losses and our wins. When Arsenal won the league '98, we won the treble. And it was just incredible the way football used to turn back then. But I always used to know that we're going to come back. I used to have that feeling we're going to come back next season. We're going to do it next season. Don't worry about it. Big up, Kenny. What's going on? Thank you so much for joining me. Hi, I'm back. Blah blah blah. Big up. Thank you, Terry, for joining me, though. It's been an absolute pleasure talking
fantastic.
to you. And just a quick one in regards to this season and in the past. What do you think United need to do to challenge next season for Manchester City?
Just get consistency back, a bit more belief. I want Rashford to have a good season. I want Ahmad to really establish himself. I want them all to just keep improving. And I wonder what other youngster will come through, like Kobbie Mainoo and Garnacho have. Which other, because we have got a really good young side. There's some great players in there. So let's just see who develops, who moves on. It'd be good if we could keep. I still want to keep Casemiro. If we can add Ugarte as well, Amrabat too. Why don't we get him?
It's the money. People are saying we're running out of money. And this is the problem.
Yeah, we haven't got any money. They've got to sell to buy, and no one seems to want Anthony Martial, do they? There's no offers flying in for him.
He's gone now, isn't he?
Has it? Well, we only got
free transfer.
We only got 300,000 quid or something like that, didn't we? For like Donny van der Beek. That's insane.
Yeah. 800,000 is like a national league.
Yeah, and because what is it? 30. He was 34 million we got him for, and then it was like, although they always give United players transfer fees in euros to make it seem like we're spending more money. That was a bit of spin from the Glazers coming out of Old Trafford, but he was rated as a 60 million pound player at the time. So yeah,
it was a 60 million pound player. He was a brilliant player. I was excited when we signed him. I just don't know what happened. I think just elements around him obviously didn't get in the first team under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and it just one thing led to another, and it was hard for him to regain his confidence. I think it just didn't work out for him
sometimes. That United shirt is a bit heavy for some players. I've seen players who haven't quite made it, in the past, and like Alan Brazil, what a great player he was for Ipswich Town, and it's hard to imagine when you see the state of him now, It's like, but he was a great player, and then he came to United, and he was like,
no wonder he's so bitter about United. Every time he talks, he says something.
He was just a flop. He really was disappointing. I remember him having one decent-ish game where he hit the crossbar against Everton at Old Trafford,
and sticks in.
Yeah,
that sticks in the head.
He was a big money signing. He just didn't do it. He just couldn't do it.
It's just the way it goes sometimes as players. If the Man United shirt, of course, the history.
Yeah, but obviously, I'm hoping we'll move on, score more goals, which I think we will. I think Rashford will be back, but we've got other options. We've got competition for places. I would still like us to keep Jadon Sancho. Really, you don't suddenly become a bad player by having a bad season, or so whatever it is that's wrong with him. And I do think there are a lot more pressures on footballers now, with all the kind of social media and all the rest of it, because we all get a bit hooked in on it. So imagine if you're like 20 and you want to read about yourself, what everyone's saying about you because you've had a good game, and then someone goes, "Yeah, he looks like twat," that kind of thing.
Exactly. Do you think they do read it? They do read the social media.
It's hard not to. It's hard not to, and then the effects that has, and it's kind of, and there was a lot to deal with for Ten Hag last season, wasn't there? With all the stuff with Anthony, and then obviously Mason Greenwood. Everyone forgets that, that situation. It was kind of quite toxic, really.
The tweet. What do you think about that tweet, though, from Sancho? Do you think it was a bit petulant, or?
Well, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, what do you think Fergie would have done?
Got rid of him out the door.
Exactly. Or made him do a grovelling apology, and then got rid of him.
Well, he got rid of Stam, didn't he? Players like Beckham and players like that. So Jadon Sancho, goodness, no chance he wouldn't be staying unless there's a public apology and grovelling, as you said, to the media.
But also, I'm not sure that Fergie would have bought him. With his reputation for being late and all the rest of it, he would have gone, no, that's not the right character. I think he'd have looked into stuff like that. You wanted players who could turn up. When you think about players who are happy to be on the bench and get occasional games like Ji-sung Park. Blimey, £4 million. What would you pay for someone like him nowadays? An amazing player.
Exactly. Well, that's taking down memory lane. I could speak about Man United all day, especially about the past. I've had so many great memories of Man United in my life. They've been, just an amazing experience. And I said it after 1999. If we never win anything again, I'll be happy because I witnessed it. I've seen it.
That's such a special time. And even that season in Division 2 was great. Hey, our first game of the season was Leyton Orient away. And they were a decent side at the time. They were kind of like top 6 in the old Division 2. And we beat them.
They used to kick balls in my garden. They didn't have a stand. I used to live on the road just behind them. They used to kick footballs. They used to hit my window.
Well, they were the first team that started bringing through quite a lot of black players.
Cunningham.
In that area. Yeah, really good. So you could see all these sort of young players coming through, whereas United were a bit late on that. City had some really good black players in the 70s, early 80s. You know what I mean? But and they bring them through, like Dave Bennett. Ended up playing for Coventry. In the final against Spurs in '87 and all that. So Roger Palmer. So they had good players coming through. But United were kind of late to the game in that way.
I think United were just a mess for a long time, and we were just trying to find ourselves again at the end of the day. We were a cup team, weren't we?
Well, it's like I think people like Sexton was a good coach, but again, we weren't bringing through players properly. Big Ron wanted to buy rather than bring through, because we had a great young 19-year-old striker, Andy Ritchie. scoring for fun and had a great first touch and everything like that. And then they flogged into Brighton and then bought, spent loads of money on Gary Birtles, who scored 1 goal, I think, in his first season at United. He was a goal-scoring machine for Nottingham Forest, but he played in a certain system there. And so there was always that going on. Peter Beardsley, we had him. We sold him for 250,000 to Vancouver Whitecaps. I think he got 1 appearance for United. We had David Platt, and we let him go to Crewe Alexander.
Yeah, David Platt was there in the youth days, wasn't he?
Yeah. So we let him go.
Not many people know that.
Yeah, David Platt, Peter Beardsley, and that was all under Big Ron. So he'd taken his eye off the ball, I think, as far as younger players. And then he sold Mark Hughes, didn't he, to Barcelona? Another one who'd come through the youth system. Although we had Norman Whiteside, who came through our youth system. He was a great player. He was a great player.
He scored that goal against Everton, didn't he?
He was very similar to Brian Kidd as a player. So skillful, strong. But like maybe a yard of pace off being world class.
I think United missed out on Gascoigne. I think if he played under Sir Alex Ferguson during the later days, obviously in 1991, if he signed for Man United, I think he could have won us the lot. I think he was a brilliant player as well. I mean, but I wouldn't change anything for the world in regards to that. I wouldn't.
It's great. I'm looking forward to seeing Cobby this season. I'm going to miss the first game of the season because I'm doing a stand-up comedy show in Edinburgh, for the Edinburgh Festival from the 18th. From the 12th to the 18th inclusive. So I'm up in Edinburgh. So my lads are gutted about it because they rely on me to give them a lift. I'll have to get the train.
Come on, get them a taxi.
They can afford it. They're grown up. They're earning. Let them do it. It's just laziness. Let's get the train there.
We used to walk it. I used to walk it from Manchester Piccadilly to the stadium.
Yeah. Well, it's about what's that? About 3 miles.
Yeah. It's quite a dodgy walk as well, back streets and stuff, until you get to the city centre. So I used to do that every time, especially after Champions League games, because I couldn't get a train home. From Manchester to London, the last train is about, I think, 9 o'clock. And then you have to wait till like 1 a.m.
Crazy, isn't it? That's so like third world, isn't it? No trains after 9.
No hotels, no trains. So I'll be sitting in Manchester Piccadilly in the freezing cold. They don't have any heaters in there until about 1 o'clock. Get a train, probably I think it was to Nottingham or Sheffield, and go on from there to London. That's what I used to do, and go work the next day. So the dedication is not that, I'm just a London fan, I'm just a Cockney Red. And
I only ever grew up with the furthest away from Old Trafford we were was a 20-minute walk. Then we moved even closer, so it was only a 10-minute walk. And I remember coming back from the game in the 90s and chatting to this bloke who was also from Old Trafford. And United were great then and winning everything. He said, and we were talking about fans who were dedicated like you, and he said, do you think you'd have bothered going if you even had to get a bus? And I said, probably not.
Probably not. I don't know. Something grabs you about Man United. There's something there. It just.
Well, it was just part, and it was cheaper than going to pictures, going to the cinema when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So you could go to United for £2 bob, but it was 2 and 6 to go to the cinema. You could go in the scoreboard end for £2 shilling in the Stretford end, 2 and 6 in the Stretford end paddock. 2 and 6. It was actually more expensive to go to the cinema than football.
Yeah. Back then it started to get more expensive in the later days, especially during the 90s and the turn of the century.
Yeah, well, I had mates who stopped going when it went up to a £5.
Come on.
When it went up to a £5, I'm not going anymore.
They should try being in London when the trains know that the Champions League game is on, or once the draw is made and they put the prices right up to over £100, so that they know when it's on. They know what game Man United play, when Man United play Liverpool, when they play Chelsea, all the big games, Arsenal. They put the prices right up, and you end up getting a coach, and it's madness. Especially when the European games were like, you leave London from London Victoria, you go overnight to Manchester, meet the fans in the airport and Manchester, go to the game in Europe and come back literally the same day and go to work the next day.
That's
dedication.
That's hardcore.
But Terry, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, my friend.
Thank
you so much for joining me. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Obviously, legend in Manchester, music and football. I hope we could do this again, guy. Let's hope we have a good season next season, and we're talking about stuff.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Hopefully, no more.
Will McTominay be playing for Fulham in that first game of the season?
Oh yeah, don't bank on it. He's going to score a goal. Just see. Terry, thanks, mate. Nice one.
Cheers for that.
Cheers, pal.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Right.
Thanks.
I want to just shut that off.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Obviously, that was Terry Christian, legend in Manchester United, and obviously music and presenter. Was a brilliant DJ as well, comedian, you name it, absolute legend. It's a pleasure having him on here today. Sorry about the technical difficulties before the game, before the stream. Thank you so much for everyone who joined me today. Absolute legends. You lot are elite. Please don't forget to retweet. Please don't forget to subscribe. And don't forget to clip the video as well. Clip the video as well, and we can, post it on YouTube and Twitter as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Absolutely brilliant show today. Don't forget, I will be back a little bit later. I'll be having something a little bit special for you guys. So don't forget to join me for that. And I shall see you very soon. Take it easy, guys. Thank you, Terry Christian, for the collaboration. It's brilliant. There's more coming next season. Don't forget, more coming next season. We have a whole range of guests coming and collaborations, legends like Terry Christian. Thank you so much, guys. Peace.